Hey everyone, welcome to Comics with Bueller. As always, I'm Bueller. Today is episode 103 of the brand new Coffee and Comic Show. As you can see, I'm not alone. I got my good friend Bob here with me. Bob, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, my friend?
I don't know. This is going to be an interesting day.
For sure.
None of us are really, I don't know. Let me just say this. And this topic that we're discussing today, are comics political or do they have an agenda? I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate this topic. And even though I'm the one that came up with it, I'm not looking forward to talking about this going forward when we hit the topic part of that.
Right.
But before we get to that, let's talk about stuff we do like,
Right.
which is the coffee that we're drinking today. The coffee is brought to you by Mocha Express, the official coffee shop of Comics with Bueller. I'm having, what is it, eggnog?
Eggnog latte.
Little 16-ounce one, because I've had like 5 cups of coffee today already. So little 16-ounce, but it's pretty good. The eggnog goodness is strong with Mocha Express this holiday season. So I really appreciate that. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking my mainstay. It's a cold brew with some sugar-free vanilla sweetener, and it is tasty.
Tasty. The tasty is back. You should have another sip because this one's going to get tasty.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, like I said, the topic today we're discussing is, do comic books, are they political or do they have an agenda? And I read all the comments that were left on last week's coffee video, because some people left comments on there, then all the comments that were left on the preview video as well. Man, that was a mistake. But anyway, we'll get to that. First things first, I want to remind everyone, the Infinity Toy and Comic Con still going on.
Yeah.
Still sounds like they're going through with it. It's, let's see, December 12th in Kissimmee, Florida. That's not how you pronounce it, but that's how I pronounce it.
Right.
That's the way it's going to be. But if you're in the Florida area, December 12th, it's on a Saturday, please join me. I'm a guest there at the Infinity Toy and Comic Con. I want to say thank you to them. Thank you to our buddy Tony from Comic Pro Line for putting everything together. And I'm really looking forward to going down there. And I'm going to be down there for a whole week. So I'm not just down there for that day. I'm going down through the 10th to the 17th. And half the time I'll be hanging out with the Comic Con people. And the other half I'll be hanging out with some really good friends from the comic community, other YouTubers and stuff like that. So it should be a lot of fun.
Awesome stuff, man.
And then they got that nice little picture of me right here that I put up on screen. It looks pretty cool. I like that. Save that forever. So not bad. Another thing I want to let you guys know, the variant, my exclusive variant's coming out on December 2nd, and I should be shipping them out that week. I'm hoping to get them in like on that Monday or something like that.
Nice.
A lot of people didn't send me their shipping address, like more than half, and so I can't just guess where you live. So I'm going to be sending out emails to everyone and asking to update their shipping information. I'm just going to send it to everybody to make it easier for me, and then I'll get all those responses. I'm also going to send out, if you want me to autograph it, because a lot of people have asked me to autograph it. Unfortunately, I had a list and I lost it, and I don't know where it went. But so I don't know if you want me to. They've even asked you to autograph it as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There you go. So you're getting some double duty there. But I'll be sending out that email within the next week or so, just to get the correct information from everybody. And then also I want to say next week we don't have a coffee video. Bob is going out of town with his lady.
With my significant other.
So that's pretty cool. Nothing wrong with that at all. I will be here, though. I will be doing a live stream at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, same time slot, but totally live, talking about comic books, all the news. I did it a couple weeks ago. It was a lot of fun. Might as well do it again, right?
Might as well.
Solo, whatever. But join me next week, 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, for the live Bueller and Coffee and Comics. So, I don't know. Are you going to watch?
I'm going to watch.
You're not going to watch.
I'm going to watch.
You're sleeping. You're down at the beach sleeping, man. If you're up at 5 o'clock in the morning on your vacation, you're wasting your time.
But when it actually drops, I'll be back from my vacation, so...
Oh, you're back?
Yeah, I'll be able to watch it at that point.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into our first 5. Bob, you want to go first?
Sure. So this week's first 5, I'm going to go a couple of themes here. And I've shown a few of these books before, but there's some good Bullseye action. Bullseye number 1. I love this one here. When he was inside of the book Gambit. Did you ever read the Gambit book?
No.
Here he is in the Thunderbolts. And then here he is in Old Man Logan.
There you go.
And then the last book from his series Bullseye, and that's issue number 4. So that's my first 5.
Nice. So you showed those ones before.
Some of them.
You love that Bullseye.
I do.
Yeah. All right, I got my 5, but actually there's 4 because my 5th one is a special one.
Okay.
First off, these are all Alex Ross.
Nice.
Goodness. So Alex Ross, Iron Man number 2, he's doing all the covers for Iron Man. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason I'm buying this series, to be honest with you. Here is number 3, Alex Ross. And these were like the final 2 timeless variants that came out. I don't even know what book that's for, but it's got Scarlet Witch on the front.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the one with Medusa. Now, I wanted to let you guys know he's not done. Did you see the news that there is another timeless variant coming out featuring Hawkeye?
Well, we knew there was a few more.
Yeah, well, originally that's all he had. He didn't slate any other ones.
Oh, wow.
So we're about 2 issues away from the Hawkeye one coming. It's coming out in Avengers. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's the next issue. I think it's the issue after that. So he just announced it.
That's awesome.
Just like last week. So it's pretty cool. So there's still hope for the Vision and Punisher one down the road, and that will be the whole mural. But my 5th book, and I just showed you it, it's going to pop up on screen right here. It's a fan art that somebody did. His name is Steven, and he did a Rye number 0. I think it's pronounced Rye. And it's going to pop up on screen here, and I'm in there as like a samurai warrior or something like that. So it's pretty amazing looking, to be honest. So it's something I wouldn't mind getting printed up and making some prints and giving them out maybe at the Comic-Con that I'm going to. But this thing is really cool, and I want to say thank you to him for making that for me. And he sent them to me the digital picture and stuff like that. I was like, dude, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
And I look pretty badass on it.
I saw this over the weekend. I was like, whoa, look at that. Pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, so very cool. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So that is our first 5 brought to you by Comic Pro Line. Let's go ahead and get into it with the topic.
Yeah.
And the topic is brought to you by Blackbox Comics. You can go to their website, blackboxcomics.net, and then the code Bueller at checkout, or Bueller10, and you save 10%. They got a new book coming out this month, or December, which is Devil's Dominion. I think it's Dominion, number 1, so that looks pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And I think there's another one coming out in the 1st of January. I'm not sure. I got to look into it, so not bad. But go to their website. You save 10%. Just enter the code Bueller10. The topic is, like I said, are comic books too political?
Yeah.
And do they have an agenda? And you know what? I'm up first.
Okay, let's do this.
I don't want to do this. God, these 2 first comments actually kind of go together, so I'm going to kind of read them back to back.
Okay.
This first one here is from James Kreider. He says, comics have always been political. They are reflections of their society and their time. Captain America started off punching Nazis, and the X-Men reflected the civil rights struggles in the 60s. We just adapt and roll with the times. So that's the first one, and then I want to read the second, because like I said, these kind of go together. This is from Justin Thomas. He says, I would say there is, but we have the power to buy or not to buy. You don't have to drink the Kool-Aid they're selling unless that's what you're after. Stan's soapbox had an agenda, and it meant a lot to me as a kid. Stan's views of tolerance and understanding between people from different backgrounds, and the way he never talked down to readers, that was predominantly a younger audience then, that was special. It made me feel part of something and taught me something along the way. So thank you, Stan Lee. Comic books have always been political. There's always something behind them. Like you said, the Captain America and the Nazis, or the X-Men with the diversity and everything, and all the struggles in the 60s. It's nothing new. Obviously, Green Lantern and Green Arrow dealt with the drug situation. I mean, there was a time when, people were burning books, burning comic books. The downfall of the boy or whatnot. Right. Can't remember the name of that. But they've always been that way. Now, one thing he mentioned in here is he used to read the Stan soapbox, which is in the back of the books. He was a kid when he was reading that, okay? Right. That's not the case anymore.
No.
The case now is the young reader isn't really reading comics. The reading age has jumped up into our age.
Absolutely.
Of people reading comics. So back then when you're reading, you don't have a preconceived feeling of way things should be or what they are. You're pretty young, so you're just forming your opinion.
Right.
I always told my kids to do their own research and then form their own opinion throughout time. As you get older, guess what? your opinion is already formed.
Sure.
And for the most part, I don't hear too many adults change their opinion on political or agenda views. They pretty much stay the same. Once they've kind of set their sights on something, they'll argue back and forth, but nobody ever concedes. Let's just be honest. Now, it's like I said, it's different because back then, as a kid, you're reading this stuff like, oh, that sounds interesting, you know, and you're flooded with this information. I wish that was the case now, because like I said, the political or agenda that is in comic books today might get lost on how you already feel, and you're just not open to hear another side, another point of view. And as I read some of these comments, that's kind of what I felt. I felt as though people just weren't open to hearing other stuff.
Right.
They just don't want to. And
I think it's kind of sad.
It is. And it's not just comic books. And like I said to you earlier, the comic books are just comic books. You know, they're not changing the world.
Right.
They're not making governments, you know, and they're read by a very small amount of people, the population of the world, especially now. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they're just comics. But do you have any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, like I said just a second ago, I mean, I think it's really sad. Because really, when it comes down to it, you know, having a different opinion is not a bad thing. And, you know, for me, I know that inside of my lifetime, my eyes were opened by hearing the other side. You know, if I just sit inside of my own ideology or my own, you know, thoughts, then I don't have anything else. And so everything else is just different from that. So I like being presented a different point of view. And that's predominantly what we're seeing nowadays. A lot of people don't want to hear that other point of view.
Yeah.
And I just think that's a sad commentary on where we're at today. When I was a kid, you know, I completely agree with what he's saying with Stan's soapbox, because it made me socially aware.
Yeah.
You know, comics, and I think we're going to get into this a little bit later, but one of the things comics did for me when I was a kid was, I mean, I had no moral compass. I didn't have a lot of good people around me, and comics kind of were my moral compass back then. But it also, because of like Stan's soapbox, made me socially aware. And I don't think we have the same equivalent in comics today.
Yeah.
You know, not the same way.
Yeah. I mean, they're writing stories to a different audience.
Yes.
Back then, they were writing stories good versus evil.
For sure.
And it was pretty much that's what it was. It was good versus evil. Now it's kind of shades of gray, you know, as far as what the storyline, and there's a lot more to choose from as far as just the standard superhero story. Mm-hmm. But back then, they were writing to a younger audience. They knew that the younger audience was reading this, kids and teenagers and stuff like that. Not a lot of 40-year-old men were reading books, comic books, back in the 60s.
Yeah.
Okay, it just wasn't happening. Our generation has grown up. Okay, we grew up reading those books, and now we're reading them again.
Yeah.
The people writing those books recognize that, so they're writing these stories. And it's kind of funny because the stories now are somewhat simpler, because we've talked many times. So you go back and then you look at the older story, man, there's words, bubbles that are like the whole page, you know. But they were, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm contradicting myself, but I just think that they were aware of who they were writing to back then.
Yeah.
And now they are aware as well. They're aware they're not writing to a 8-year-old kid who's picking up their book at the 7-Eleven.
For sure.
Just because that's not the case.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway. I got the next one as well. And there's 2 comments from the same person. This one is from Placeholder. He says, we bring our individual perspectives to everything we consume. We can project our own feelings into it, and we can gloss over things we don't like. 2 people can read the same thing and have different interpretations of what it meant, and both opinions are valid. With this in mind, reading the comments, it seems to say more about the person commenting than the subject that they are commenting on, which is interesting. I think we should all listen to what Dan, the English teacher, had to say in the comment and continue to keep comics an open space for self-expression for both the reader and creator. I actually have Dan, the English teacher, his comments in here later on, so we'll kind of get on to that. People can read it. I mean, it's glass half empty, glass half full.
Right.
Just depends on how you see it. People can read the same exact thing and interpret it, just like you said, 2 different ways. You're a religious man. I'm not very religious at all. The Bible can be interpreted many different ways. And it doesn't... Everyone who reads the Bible, even though they interpret it different ways, I will tell you this, they all believe they interpreted it the right way.
Everybody believes they're right.
Exactly. They all... I mean... I can't believe we're talking about this stuff. But I mean, it's par for the course. But it is. Nobody reads a book like that and says, it might be right.
Right.
Maybe. They're like, yes, I believe in this. I full-heartedly believe in what they're saying.
Right.
But everyone can interpret it differently. And that's the case on many, many different types of literature or TV shows or anything that you really encounter in life. People just see things differently. Whether you want to accept that, and kind of go by it, that's up to your choice. It's up to you to kind of feel that's what makes me comfortable, okay? And it's up for you to also say, you know what? Even though I see it a certain point away, it doesn't bother me. I'm okay with it. So what? No big deal. Just move on and go throughout your day. Not everything has to be something.
Right.
Okay? And unfortunately, in the comments, everything seems like it's something. Or something seems like it's everything.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be. Let me read the second part of this. This is also from Placeholder. And this is great. And this really summed it up for me. He said, Bueller, I was wondering how you feel after reading all the comments. And in quotes, he says, of any of your videos. Inspired, sad, confused, all of the above. I experienced every emotion he just listed reading these comments for this one.
Yeah. And
I dreaded reading the comments for this. I usually am reading them throughout the week. And I did. I read a couple on Wednesday. I was like, okay. And I'm not saying they're all bad.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like, wow, I guess it was to be expected. There's a few ones I had to delete, because I was like, that's a little too much. And there's some people call people names and stuff like that, and personal people names and the thing. And I have a filter, and I just filter them out and delete them and stuff like that. Just because somebody shares their view doesn't mean you got to call them a name.
Right.
And there's people that do that. And, I was like, Jesus, So when I read the comments, for the most part, I'm pretty excited to read them. On this one, I wasn't. Yeah. And it drove me nuts. And it kind of brought my week down, to be totally honest. I was like, this is the first coffee video where I'm not looking forward to sitting across from Bob and having this conversation. Not that nothing personal against you, maybe a little bit.
You sure?
But, yeah. But it just wasn't, didn't leave a good taste in my mouth, to be totally honest.
Yeah. I mean, I read, some of the comments on Wednesday night. I didn't get a chance to read them after that, but I pretty much got a dose of what was going to be coming. And look, a lot of what we're seeing right now, because of the current political climate, a lot of our country is polarized. A lot of people are polarized. And that wasn't always the case. Especially, when you look at back in the 60s, yeah, there were a lot of different things going on. But really, when it comes down to it, democracy is a place that all views are able to be brought to the table, and we can have a common conversation in order to be able to move forward with each other.
Yeah.
And I mean that's what it's about. And it's just so sad to see just how polarized people are nowadays, to the point to where there's no listening to the other side.
Yeah.
And that's a sad thing, and it really saddened me this week.
Bob and I are on totally different sides of the spectrum.
Yeah. I don't have a political stance. He does.
We had a conversation last week where, he does not agree with me and I do not agree with him.
Not at all.
I have my best friend, Damon. We have totally different beliefs and stuff.
Yeah.
He's been my best friend since the 3rd grade, and he's still my best friend. Even though all throughout life, and I've seen him grow and seen him, have views that I don't agree with, and I was like, geez, he's still my friend. Family, the same way. Half my family is divided, one side of the thing, the other half is the other side. When I get worn out of one half, I go visit the other half. When I get worn out of them, I go visit the other one.
There you go.
There's no about. It's really hard to balance it, but it's like it doesn't mean that you just turn people off.
No.
And that's kind of what it seems like, man. It's like, boom, I don't want to, boom, it's off. I don't want to hear it. You know, it doesn't have to just be all or nothing.
Right.
Okay. It doesn't have to be like that. Okay. You just, like you said, just listen.
Yeah.
It doesn't, just listen. And whether you agree with it, great. Whether you don't, great. You know, what your grandma used to say to you? If you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all.
Say nothing at all.
Yeah, some people need to realize that, and it's just, you know what? Okay, I understand you. Whatever,
Sure.
You don't have to make some smart ass comment or whatnot,
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, this is great. Jesus, you're up.
Sure. All right, this one comes from Mr. DC.
Can't we just do the reviews now?
I know. He said, all good art has something to say, and it's not always obvious. Comics are no exception. Superman and Captain America are enduring examples of this and have grown with the times, always striving to be better. I love it when books stand up for the underdog, the victims, and suppressed. Everything I learned from comics to movies and all forms of entertainment is to try to be better. Selflessness is better than selfishness. Sometimes that gets political. If a story in any medium doesn't appeal to my ideals, I will drop it and not support it. Typically, though, I can enjoy most any type of story so long as it does not properly encourage harm or hatred towards any group. I believe everyone deserves to be heard, even those with different opinions than me, but I won't tolerate hatred. Looking forward to see what you pull out of this topic.
Sleepless nights.
Sleepless nights.
When we talk about political stuff, there's some things that are political, but they're pretty much everyone's on the same side. Okay, it's like, if you're a racist, pretty much everyone thinks you're probably gonna have your views the wrong way.
Right.
Okay. There's not like, he's a nice racist.
Right.
He's a good racist. There's none of that. So I mean, if you take the KKK, and I think that didn't Superman just have a book like Superman Against the Klan or whatever,
something like that? Yeah.
I don't even know what it was. It might not even be referring to the KKK or whatever
Right.
it is. Nobody's gonna fall on the side like, well, I'm really hoping for the for the bad guys in that.
Right.
Even though that's a political, like he said, in here, it's the hatred. The group that they're going against is pure hate. Okay, they just hate. Okay, like Nazis, like Captain America was going against the Nazis and stuff. The Nazis hated certain religions, certain people and stuff like that. They just hated all groups. Now, is it political to go up against the Nazis? Not. You're going up against the hatred. You're trying to defeat the hatred. I don't see that as being political, that much. You're trying to get rid of something that's causing conflict, okay? The Nazis are causing conflict. They were wanting to eradicate, people who didn't feel the same way they did, okay? I don't see that as being political. That's a lot different between taking something like that and comparing it to, small differences of opinion on the political spectrum and putting that in the comic book. How do you feel about gay marriage? Well, I'm for it. I don't like it. That's a different. Somebody can have a different opinion, and it's totally valid than someone else's. But when you have an opinion about a group that's full of hate, okay, like a Nazi group or whatnot, I don't think anyone, like I said, is going to back them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what he's referring to, as far as the hatred and the political groups and the differences between an opinion and a group that's just pure hatred.
Sure. I always have believed, over my lifetime, if you have anything where you have a political view or a hatred, that's coming up, it's better to sit down and have a conversation and understand where a person is coming. You may not agree,
yeah,
but to get that understanding so that you're looking at them as a person and not a people group is very important.
I don't know. I mean, from what I'm hearing, and maybe I'm interpreting this wrong, but and obviously it's before my lifetime in
Sure.
a totally different world. I can't even relate to something like that happening or whatnot. But there's wrong and there's right.
Right.
Okay. That's wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. That's wrong. What those people did to those people is wrong.
Absolutely.
It's fundamentally wrong. What happens in society, like when, and I'll just, I mean, we're kind of getting off topic, but the guy who died, okay, the black gentleman who died by the police,
George Floyd.
Yes, that's wrong. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could sit there and watch that video, and that is wrong.
Absolutely.
What they're doing to him is wrong. I don't know what I would have done in that situation. I mean, I'm talking about as a bystander.
Right.
Would I have been able to sit there and just let that happen? I don't think I would have. Nothing against the people there, but I think the last thing I would do is whip out my phone. I would probably jump in. And say, fundamentally, even though you're the police, that is wrong.
Right.
What you're doing is wrong.
Absolutely.
And to me, it's something like that. That's, cut and dry.
Right.
Right there.
But bringing it back to comics, when you talk about these views and you see what I would have done or what anybody else would have done, or to look at a people group, based upon a certain belief system that you have, I think that's one of the things that inside of comics can be so great, is the fact that we can have these different viewpoints, which allows us to be able to just have a little bit different thought, going forward.
Yep.
And when it comes to people making comments, and if they're so cut and dry in their ethos that they're going to shut off somebody else and not have that conversation, you have to be willing to accept that, because that's what's going on right now.
All right, you got the next one.
All right. All right. This one comes from John Castle. He said, I don't think too many books are too political. But I think the pros are, especially when they tell fans that if they don't agree with their politics, don't buy their books. When pros come out and say that if you voted this way, then you're this nasty name, and then that nasty name, and so on. And honestly, that's what turns me off to comics for the last few years, which I've just gotten back into over the last year for death metal and finishing runs that I started but didn't finish.
The creator is always going to voice their opinion. These are creators that have, a creator has a certain mind. Okay, you have to have a certain mindset to be able to put pen to paper and build a story.
Right.
Okay, your subconscious is automatically just going to leak in. Whether you intend it to or not, it just kind of happens.
Right.
And a lot of people just build off their own experiences and turn up the volume, or some instances in their life. But I think I mentioned to you, I said, I remember a creator saying that, like, hey, if you voted a certain way, don't buy my book. I think that's ridiculous. You're putting it out there for public consumption, okay? Yeah. And you're telling someone, if you don't vote the way I vote, don't buy my product.
Yeah.
That's kind of dumb.
It is dumb.
I don't, you know what? It's just, for one, you're probably going to cut half your audience off by doing that from buying your product.
Sure.
And two, there's people that will vote differently, but will enjoy your work, okay? And they can separate the two. Right. They can separate whatever your opinion is, or whatever you put in the book, and just enjoy the story for what it is.
Yeah, yeah. And
not have to leave it after 10 minutes, say, well, they voted for someone else.
Right.
Big deal.
Well, I think a good story tells a story, and you can have something political inside of it because you're presenting a point of view. But for somebody who's not really there for that, can still read the story and get a good story without ever seeing that. I think those are the ones that I like the best. I think the person that they're talking about here may be Kelly Sue DeConnick. I know at one particular point people were trolling her because she's got a feminist point of view. And I remember the one video I saw where she says, if you don't like my point of view, then don't buy my books. Yeah. Right. And I can understand where she's coming from on that, because she was getting hit, from all sides in social media. But really, she's got a point. It's your choice. Yeah. If you don't like what's being laid down inside of a book, you always have the ability to put that book down and say, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah. You're up next as well.
Okay. All right, this next one comes from Brandon Koss. Brandon, thanks for the comment. He said, comics are a reflection of whatever's going on in society, and people have always been highly political. I get where people are coming from in regards to not wanting mainstream comics to be political, though. Comics are an escape for a lot of people, and it's a bummer if a character you love takes a stance you don't agree with. It happens in real life every election cycle. Someone you like and respect comes out on the other side from you ideologically. Sometimes you have to decide whether their political views are a deal breaker for you or not. I think reading all different viewpoints, especially ones that differ from yours, is important. But if you don't want to do that, there are tons of great books out there for you. Comics are political, but in every direction. You just have to seek them out. As for Marvel and DC, though, their agenda is selling books.
Oh, yeah. We kind of hit on this a little bit before we talk, and as far as, changing a character and stuff. And obviously, characters have been around a long time. And whether it's changing their sexual orientation, the color of their skin, or whatnot, or whatever that is. Personally, it's never... I never really took an issue with it myself. It didn't bother me. And like I said to you, I'm like, I don't care. I don't care whether Iceman is gay or not.
Right.
It has nothing to do with, when he's fighting or, and stuff like that. But you got to also remember, like I said, this character's been around forever, 50 years. They got to talk something. They got to bring something new into the fold. And we're actually going to hit on this a little bit more because somebody had it all in caps and stuff like that. Right. So this opinion. And as far as like them taking a stance, and recently there was that Savage Dragon book, that had Biden and the other lady on there, and and he's like, I endorse them for president. So what? That doesn't. You don't need to. Just because he endorses that, big deal. It's to me, it's not like a deal breaker. Who you endorse, who I endorse, is not a deal breaker.
Right.
Okay. If I enjoy it, it doesn't make any difference. Okay. To me, it's just a cover of a book, of a comic book. That doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It's there for enjoyment. Okay. Yes, there's views and opinions in books. There's views and opinions in everything you read and everything that you consume. There's always going to be some sort of view and opinion. It's up to you to decide whether you agree with it or not. And just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean you have to pass on it.
Right.
You shouldn't pass on it. You should be open enough to accept it and accept that someone endorses that candidate. And it's like, you know what? Good for him. He feels strongly about his beliefs and he's going to endorse it. You know what? I can respect that. I can respect it. Even I might not agree, but I can respect it.
Right.
And I don't know. There was a lot of mentions to that Savage Dragon book.
Yeah.
I mean, there was multiple mentions, and I was like, "What's the big deal? I mean, so what? If Donald Trump was on there, would I be offended by it? No, I wouldn't think twice about it.
Right.
And the fact that we're to the point to where people do think that much about simply just putting a caricature on a book or in a book, and it's a deal breaker for them.
Right.
That's not the way it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my thought.
Sure. I mean, for me, I personally, I don't like when they take a main character that I've read for years and they're going to change them just for the case of inclusivity. I love inclusion. I'm all about it. But when they do that to a character that I've loved for years, there's something about it. It's like, I want my character.
Yeah.
But that's the only time that it really bothers me. I mean, if you're going to create something for inclusion, create a badass character that, that particular people group is going to enjoy, grab a hold of, and love, and go forward. And I say that as a, over 50-year-old white male. And I didn't.
You're over 50?
Yeah. Don't even start.
I thought it was 60.
Don't even start. This guy, man. I had all of those characters growing up, right? But there's certain groups that didn't. Like when I was growing up, my best friend, was African American, and his favorite character in the world was Spider-Man. And I often think, looking back, is that what if Spider-Man was black? and would he have enjoyed it more? I don't know if he would have, but I know he sure enjoyed Miles Morales when he came out.
Yeah.
And so I think when you do put things like this inside of books, you're always going to have people who are going to have feelings over it. I just don't think doing it for the sake of inclusivity is the right way to go. Create something completely awesome that everybody can enjoy, but don't change your mainstream stuff just to accommodate.
All right, I got the next one here, and this one is from Dan, the English teacher that we referred to earlier. It says, as a high school English teacher, we discussed how all narratives have themes and commentary. Even escapist comic books have themes about how the world works. Fantasy worlds in comics are just marked versions of our own. The characters are living their own dramas, which we can read as parallel for the struggles in the world around us. We also aim to have our classroom be safe space to explore difficult issues. Thanks, Bueller, for creating a safe space with your channel. He's referring to that because when I brought up this topic, I said, hey, please be respectful, and everyone, don't just be a jerk, and because unfortunately there's jerks out there. Yeah. But, and this is the comment that Dan was, or that earlier from Placeholder was referring to. It's pretty neat that he's an English teacher, and it sounds like he shares the comic books in his school and stuff like that. And like I said earlier, though, that the comic books aren't necessarily written for younger readers anymore and stuff. They're written for more 50-year-old white guys.
Right.
Really? Whatever. But anyway, when he talks about safe place, now I just want to give an example, okay? When I say safe place, okay, if I want to show this book, all right, Youngbloods number 8, all right, it has Barack Obama on the front. I want to be able to show this without someone in the comics saying they're going to wipe their ass with it.
Right.
Okay? Because trust me, I've heard that comment before.
Yeah.
And that's not the way it should be. Whether you like him or you don't like him, so what? So what? It doesn't have to mean anything. It's just a character on the front of a comic book. To the gentlemen or people that say they're going to wipe their ass with it, I have another copy. So, I'm good.
You just solved it right there.
Yeah. But I bought this book not because of any type of political statement. I bought it because it was 50 cents in the 50 cent thing, and it was, an Image Youngbloods number 8.
Yeah.
And I could care less who was on the cover. Okay? I'm not trying to make any type of statement. Whether I like Barack Obama or I don't, that's my own opinion. I share that with the people I want to share that with. I shared that with Bob, and I've shared that with many people. And if you want to ask me individually, I'll share it with you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to mean that I'm making a statement that I have this in my collection.
Right.
And just because he's on the cover doesn't mean that it has to be making a statement. Now, it does say on there, change you can believe in, which is a political statement.
Right.
But you don't have to make it into more than what it is. And what it is a comic book, okay, that we can enjoy and agree and not agree and still enjoy it no matter what.
Absolutely.
So there you go. And now everyone that doesn't like him probably not watching anymore. All right. So I got the next one here as well. This is from, I can't pronounce it. It's Kimball, Kiiimbel.
Yeah.
This is the one all in caps.
All right.
Really wants you to know this. It says, I think comics are too political. For one thing, I'm tired of race swapping, gender swapping, and sexual orientation swapping to establish characters. For me, comics used to be escape from politics, but now politics have pretty much become rooted in comics. Okay. So we kind of hit on this before.
Yeah.
And I will say this. I don't have a problem. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you why. Okay. I had an experience, I think Thor came out. And I just wasn't in the comics, or back in the comics yet. And so I saw the Thor movie, I thought it was pretty good. And I remember going somewhere and they had a Thor comic book. And it was a lady. It was Jane Foster was Thor. I was like, that's kind of weird. I didn't have a problem with it, but I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
If you're going to put out a movie with this character, you should have something backing it up at the store level. And at the time, there was just that book. There was no Thor. The Thor character in the movie was not in a comic book at the time. I don't know what the story was, to be honest. But to me, that didn't make any sense. And I was like, I get it, that they're switching things up, but I think one should go with the other. And so I always thought that there should be another Thor book with the actual Thor character that I just watched in the movie.
Sure.
Because I didn't walk into that place wanting to get a Thor that was a different character than what I just saw in the movie theater. It just didn't make sense to me. And I know that Marvel introduced a bunch of different characters back then, and it's kind of before my time. Different versions of the Hulk. I think Miles Morales was Brian Michael Bendis or whatnot. That was before that.
Right.
And I understand them trying to introduce new Iron Man. I think that was. They just don't grab me, obviously, because I'm not grown up with them.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they don't grab kid A, who sees that right now. So I understand why they do, because people run out of ideas. Let's just be honest. There's only a certain amount of superheroes you can come up with.
Right.
Something original. It's very hard to come up with an original idea, an original thought. Okay. And when something works, let's stick with what works.
Right.
And I think that's why you see a lot of the same translations. Like, oh, here's a Hulk, but it's a different Hulk. Here's a Iron Man, but a different Iron Man. I get why they do it. They want to spark that interest that you had a spark when you saw it.
Right, exactly.
And the spark that I had and you had when we first saw it. It's not easy doing that anymore.
It is not.
And I admire them for trying to do it. But sometimes it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. No, I hear exactly what you're saying. And again, if you're going to create new versions, for me, I'm completely up for that.
Yeah.
But just for me, when they take and put it in the actual book, like with the X-Men making Bobby Blake gay, I can accept that, but it just wasn't my Bobby Blake at that point. And so that's the only time that I have an issue with it.
I never knew he wasn't gay.
But creating a character like Riri Williams to be the next Ironheart or Miles Morales, I love those.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that as we know, getting into comics, whatever you first experience, that's your version of it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that ding the 90s stuff, but there's a whole generation that's
sure.
That's what they grew up with. That was their stuff.
Yeah.
And so they're coming out with new versions is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like you said, if for somebody out there, that's what they're growing up with.
Yeah. You gotta also remind yourself, the writer today is different from the writer from the 60s.
Yeah.
It's a total different generation. There's just, can you imagine the conversations in the 60s in the bullpen?
Oh my gosh.
Just cigarettes and weed and I was watching a documentary on Mad Magazine or whatever, and it was like, geez, that would have been the fun room to be in when they were putting that together. But it's just different. So, and things are more accepting than they used to be. Okay. And when things are more accepting, because now it's not a big deal to know someone who is gay. Okay, that's not a big deal anymore.
Right.
It's like, oh wow, no, it's common. Okay, a lot of my friends, different sexual orientations, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's especially in Oregon. Give me a break. But back then it was a little different. It wasn't out in the open. The girl, what's the term, coming out of the closet, or whatnot.
Right.
There's no closet anymore. Everything's open, and you know what? I prefer it that way, to be totally honest. I don't mind it. It's everyone should be who they are, and not have to hide from it, okay,
right.
or be embarrassed of it. And we talked about just the other day when we talked about Comic-Cons,
right?
Running into people that we knew that we didn't know they were into it, but they were embarrassed to share it outside their life. But then they go to a Comic-Con and they're dressed all head to toe, in this outfits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I had no idea they were into that, but they were embarrassed to share it, and you shouldn't be that way.
No.
It shouldn't. In this time, you shouldn't have to anymore. It was different back then, different writers. So I think that's why you get a lot of different points of view right now, is because you're open and you can
Right.
share what you want to share.
And that's the point I was trying to make earlier. You know, when you're sitting in front of somebody and you hear their story and you hear where they're coming from, then you at least have a chance to understand. But don't judge unless you've walked a mile in that person's shoes. You can't say you wouldn't be like that or that you would be like that based upon your own point of view. And so and if you do that, the more people who do that create these atmospheres where people can't be comfortable just being who they are.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. It's just fully wrong.
What was the creator, the Grant
Morrison?
Yeah, does the Green Lantern.
Uh-huh.
He came out as something non-binary. I don't even know what this is. Okay, I'm not trying to offend anyone. I really don't. Maybe I'm ignorant. Whatever that means, as far as his. I don't know if it's referring to his gender or whatever it is.
It just means I mean, whether it's male or female, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't. Seriously, I have no clue.
Right.
But it doesn't change any of his stories.
No.
Everything I've ever read that I've enjoyed from him, it doesn't make any difference.
Right.
And I could care less.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just saying. I need to look that up, find out what it is.
For sure.
But really, I don't. Like I said, I don't really care. But anyway, Bob, you are up next.
Sure. Next one comes from Stanible's Collectible Universe. He says, I feel that most, if not all, comic books coming out at this time do have an agenda. I also feel that many of the books are political in nature due to writers' personal held beliefs. This does not mean that we have to agree 100% with their views or opinions. I read comic books to get away from all the stuff going on, and sometimes it does ruin a comic book for me. But at the same time, I believe that they have the right to write what they want, and it's our right to stop purchasing the book if we disagree with the writer's agenda or political opinions to that extent. As a former active duty Marine, I feel it's imperative that we all exercise our rights, and I would fight for and have fought for people to be able to express their opinion even if they are contrary to my own. Live long and prosper. And that is so right.
I like to live long and prosper.
Yeah.
I like that he put that at the end of there. And thank you for your service as well.
Absolutely.
But, I put on here in my notes, freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Okay, and we live in a country with freedom of speech. And everyone has a voice that they can share. I would have preferred those voices to be respectful, and I'm not trying to sound like a jerk, but sometimes it's noise. And it's just a bunch of noise. And there's nothing behind it. There's no substance behind it. If you're going to make an opinion, and if you're going to share your voice, do a little bit of research and educate yourself so you have something to back up your voice.
Right.
Like, why don't you like them? Because why? Because I don't want to hear because.
Right.
Give me a reason. And you know what? Whether I agree with that reason or not, at least you took the time to educate yourself and to form an opinion. I've had many conversations and with family members where it was literally like, I just don't.
Right.
Okay, why? I just don't. Give me something, because I'll give you a bunch, But give me something,
Right.
And that's as far as it goes.
Yeah.
And they're not trying to cut the conversation down. They want to have the conversation, but they just haven't, put anything behind it.
Right.
But this gentleman, he was in the service. He recognizes our freedom of speech, and even though he might have a different opinion than others, he respects that opinion.
Right.
And being respectful of all opinions goes a long way.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, bottom line is he says it exactly right. He has fought, he will fight and has fought for the freedom of people. And when you talk about the freedom of people, those are people who have a very vast, differing beliefs, religious ideologies, political stances, and all of them are part of the same people group and country, our country.
Yeah.
And so when he goes and lays his life down and sheds his blood, he's laying it down for the white man as much as he is for the black man, as much as he is for the red man, as much as he is for any other type of race. He's also laying it down for the Muslim, for the Christian, for the Jew, for the Buddhist, right? He's laying it down for because inside of this country, you are free you have freedom of speech, you have freedom of religion, and you have freedom to prosper as a human being.
Yeah.
And so whenever you take and look at our country and you have a problem with some other group that is not your own, you still have to remember that is your fellow American over there, and you're all part of the same country. And this country was founded upon, everybody being able to have their own beliefs and have their own ways to go. And so
Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
There you go. All right, Bob, you got the next one as well.
Sure thing. All right, this one comes from Joseph Barbera. He says, I don't want politics in comics. I was offended by the cover of Savage Dragon 252. I had no other choice but to buy it because it was on my pull list. Otherwise, I would have passed it up. I like Eric Larson, and he's entitled to his political beliefs. Just keep it out of comics.
We mentioned Savage Dragon 252. Yeah. I mean, my personal thing is it's not something that you should be offended by.
Right.
There's a lot of other stuff in the world today that deserves more attention than being. If you're offended by something so minor, I don't know. I think that that energy and time should be put somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to, badmouth you there, Joseph, or whatnot, and because your opinion is valid, and I appreciate you buying your books from your poll list as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's very, very cool that you're in there. It's just, like I said, it's just a comic book, and it's just the Savage Dragon apparently is a fan of them, and so what? You know what? I'm a fan of Savage Dragon. I'm a fan of Bob, and he might have a different opinion. I'm still a fan. Okay.
Come on.
Bob is somewhat a fan of me. I have a different opinion. It doesn't mean he's going to pass me up, or whatnot. It's just it is what it is.
Yeah.
And there's other things that you could take that time and energy in, and make it more useful.
For sure.
Stuff like that. So.
And Joseph, I just want to say that if you have that much of a problem with a particular book that's on your pull list and you feel obligated to buy because it's in your pull list, you can always ask your LCS director or store owner, can I trade this in for another comic? And I'm pretty sure they'll be fine with that.
He probably doesn't like this one.
I know.
Okay, I got the last one here, and this is from the Flash by Night. It says, the idea of politics in comics is overblown. 500 comics could come out in a certain month with 2 touching on a topic deemed political. And instead of enjoying one of the 298, we focus on the panel of the 0.5% of the books and stat comics are too political. I think he's right. I think that majority of comics are just comics. And people read into them what they want.
That's true.
People read what they want to read. They hear what they want to hear, and they read what they want to read. Okay, even though it's not meant to be political by any means, it's easy to make anything political if you want to.
Absolutely.
Okay? And people just, especially now, especially the reader, and that has a lot to do with the reader. The reader, we're 30, 40 years old. The reader is educated. It's experienced life. Gone through relationships, jobs, divorces, health problems, all sorts of issues. We have our soul, okay? We're not young kids anymore who are just like, the world is wide open, and it's just, we're just encountering it. So we have our own opinions and they're formed. And I think a lot of them, I think he's right on the money. I think most books, for the most part, are just books.
Yeah.
Are just stories that people are writing and people are enjoying. Maybe they do have somewhat of a political nature to them, but that doesn't mean they're meant to be political.
Right.
It doesn't mean they're trying to say something about the current political situation that's going on in the world.
Right.
Maybe it's a political situation going on in the world they created. It has nothing to do with the outside world.
Absolutely.
And I think that is the case. I think most comics are just comics, and they're just there to be enjoyed. A lot of people said escapism, that's what they're for. If you're so wrapped up, and because people can look at everything and make it political.
Absolutely.
Okay, what fast food restaurant do you go to? That's political. Oh, do you get a plastic bag or a paper bag? That's political.
Yeah.
People do that.
They do. And
it's not worth your time.
Absolutely. No, I mean, if you're looking at Spider-Man going up against Dr. Doom in last month's issue and as an allegory for the current presidential election, you got a problem. It's not there, buddy.
Yeah, people do that.
They do.
It's overblown. So anyway, that was our last comment. And this is the last time I ever want to talk about this subject. To be totally honest, I read every comment, and I appreciate everyone's taking the time to read their comments. And they were nice, long, detailed comments.
Yeah.
And some were just, I really appreciated. Some I didn't appreciate that much, you know. Some were just out in left field. It's like, I can't believe people feel this way, you know, and it's just surprising, you know. But my bottom line is, it's just a comic book.
Yeah.
And just enjoy it for what it is. If you feel as though it's too political, take a step back and just tell yourself, maybe it's not. Maybe it just is a comic book.
Right.
Maybe it just is someone sharing a story. And maybe I'm making this out to be too much. So, anyway, there you go. Anything, Bob?
I mean, I like the subject because I think everything should be out on the table. I mean, so I enjoy talking about this stuff, but really when it comes down to it, folks, these are people, you know, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, their own belief. And I would just encourage everybody to just, you know, be tolerant, you know, be understanding, and understand like this is my friend, and even though he's wrong, I still like him.
He's wrong. I like him, I guess.
There you have it.
There you go. All right, switch your gears, man. Let's go to our final five. You want to go?
Sure. All right, my final five. I figure I'd bring some detective comics. I don't know which numbers these are. Well, this one's 988. And then we have 998. And
Nice.
these are all B covers, which I really love. This is 1006. This is 1019. And then this one is actually not a Detective Comics. I thought it was. It's Dark Knight's Death Metal number 3, and it's the Robin King, which is Batman anyway.
Good
Right?
enough, man. You almost dropped that one. I gotta save it there. You almost dropped it.
Almost.
Very cool. Okay, I got my five. Man, look at these. Look at this thing.
What you got?
Generation Next Gold. Look at this thing. It's like a gold, 24 karat gold brick.
That's the shiny cover right there.
There you go. Unbelievable Strange Adventures number 204. This is a DC book. 12 center. The Crow number 1. I don't know what there's been so many crows, but I know Derek is a Crow fan, so I wanted to show a Crow book that I had. I think that's the only one I got. I think this is the Punisher number 1 variant. I don't know, I might be wrong, but it's kind of cool. It's homage to the 129. And then I have the Avengers number 24. This is Deodato Jr. variant, I think. I don't know. Deodato, sure. There you go. What?
Awesome stuff.
I don't know the names. So those are my final five. So a little bit of, actually, a lot of those books were actually sent to me a while ago.
That's cool.
But I like the 24 karat gold
sure.
one. I think that's pretty cool. That's
a good mix.
That's the shiniest book I got.
That's about as shiny as you can get.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go ahead and go to our good friend Robbie and take a look at his pick of the week.
Oh, hey everybody, I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups from Pop Culture Philosophers. Hope you're enjoying the show, hope you're enjoying your coffee, and my pick of the week is...
Dark Interlude, number 1 by Vault Comics. Now, I had a chance to read this week. I think it's pretty masterful. I think Robbie's right. It'd probably be better if you'd read the original Fearscape.
Yeah, I think so. The Farscape, I don't know.
Right, but you had a chance to read it. What did you think?
I read it. It was okay. I thought I enjoyed the nudity in the book.
There it goes.
To be honest. It's like one panel.
One panel, right there you go.
But honestly, Robbie had said that you need to read the prequel to this, or the first part of it, which is a different title. And I was lost. I didn't really know what was going on, to be honest. Whether I go back and read that book, I don't think I will. But I did buy it, so I mean, there you go. But Robbie really enjoyed it. It was his pick of the week. Like
For sure.
We've said before, he reads 40, 50 books a week, and he does his reviews on Pop Culture Philosophers every Tuesday night. He was a little late this week again.
Yep.
Sitting there and like, come on, man. I almost texted him again, but nah.
Yeah.
I felt as though he'd get it covered. So, but anyway, check out his channel, Pop Culture. They're almost at 9,000 subscribers.
Wow.
So he's rocking. So it's really cool. And I was just on his channel the other night. We did a Roadhouse review, and that was pretty cool. So thank you, Robbie, for having me on. But there you go. That's his pick of the week. But let's go ahead and go to our newest segment. And the newest one is called Was It Good?
Was it good?
And people really enjoy this segment. Pretty much what we do, we pick 2 or 3 books every week. We read them, and we pretty much let you know if it was any good. So I'm going to ask Bob about his books.
All right.
And Bob, let me ask you first. We Live #2. Was it good?
It was good, definitely. I know Robbie himself liked it better than the first book. I personally didn't like it better than the first book, but it was really a good read. I love the colors inside of it, the way the story is laid. There's a couple of parts that make you jump. You have to jump and make your own conclusion.
Sure.
I didn't like that about it, but other than that, I still think it's a very, very solid book.
Yeah. So this is the book about the aliens that want 5,000 kids,
Yep.
and they're just supposed to give them to them.
Yep.
Sounds great. I was actually looking for, because the #1 second print was coming out this week or last week. I was going to pick out #1 and 2, and the shop didn't have either one of them. So
Right.
I'm not up to date on this series, but I've heard it's pretty good.
Yeah.
The next one is Ice Cream Man #21. Bob, was it good?
It was good. I love Maxwell Prince's writing. Just about every issue of Ice Cream Man is insanely well done, and this was no different. I know there's a little Watchmen kind of vibe to it.
Sure.
But it's amazing. I love Ice Cream Man.
Nice. And your last book is this one right here, Symbiote Spider-Man #1. This is kind of the first King in Black book. Bob, was it good?
Didn't actually get a chance to read it this week. My LCS didn't have it inside of my pull box. What about you? Did you read it?
I did read it, so I will tell you this. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It was it kind of it takes place before all the King in Black stuff, like this first attempt to be the symbiote, whatever it is. I don't know, but I enjoyed it. I think it's a 5-issue series, and it's kicking off the King in Black, but you don't really need it. So. Yeah. You're probably going to read it later. I think you said you got a copy.
I did get a copy.
But yeah, it was okay. It was worth a read. So as far as the Marvel books this past week, it was one of the better ones.
Awesome.
So not bad. All right, Bob. You want to
right.
ask me about mine? I got them sitting right here.
Yeah. So the first one on your list was Venom 30. Travis, was
Yes.
it good?
Yeah, actually, I enjoyed it. It's the end of the story arc for the Venom Beyond or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And the next one is obviously going to be the King in Black thing. It's kind of there was a nice little time jump at the end where at the end when they pretty much defeated everybody and they're all good and they're all just hanging around. And Venom and his son want to go back. It takes like a couple years for them to figure out how to make it happen.
Right.
So they're just hanging out in this other world, with his lady or whatever it is, and I thought that was pretty interesting. And then when they get here, there's no stars in the sky.
Uh-oh.
And there's like something going, and that's the end of the book. But it was good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good read. So yeah, it was good.
Good. Next one up on your list is Big Girls #4. Was it good?
You know what? I'm really enjoying this series. It was good. This is kind of a fun book. And it's an ongoing series. I've read all 4 issues, and actually it's like becoming one of my first reads of the week, like as soon as I get it.
Awesome.
The premise is like there's some big girls, okay, and they just keep growing to be huge like giants. And then there's like these dudes that when they grow older and stuff, they get really big, but they're like monsters. And so these big girls are there to save humanity or whatnot. And apparently in this one, there's not as many big girls as there used to be, or something like that. And then like the monsters actually have a little bit more humanity to them, is what they initially thought.
Right.
And so they're kind of exploring that in this book. It's really good. I enjoy it. It's a fun, easy read.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need that.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Your last one up on your list is Something is Killing the Children #12. Bueller, was it good?
It was good, but it's always good. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't really need to talk too much about this book. I've been a fan from the very beginning. If you're not on this book, you should be. This book, one thing I did, I mentioned this on my top 10 video. Some of the characters look very similar. And I actually didn't even know who the character was for a minute. I was like, "Who's that guy? Is that guy that guy? Is that guy this guy?" And the same thing with the Erica Slaughter. I was like, "Who's that?"
Uh-huh.
And so it kind of threw me for a loop. I read it again, kind of figured it out. But it's a good, thing. It's not. I thought this was going to be more action packed because for some reason there was a lot of variants printed for this one, but it was mainly just storyline.
Yeah.
And the story was really good. So
It was
yes.
awesome.
It was good.
Awesome stuff.
There
Yeah.
you go. Was it good? That's it. That's the thing. Now next week, like we said earlier, I'm just going to be doing a live stream, and I'll be talking about some books I'm going to be reading, like Daredevil 24, Ten of His Swords, Destruction #1, X-Men 15, Department of Truth #3, Scumbag #2, Spawn 312. Let's see, there's another death metal tie-in coming out. The Other History of DC.
You're not going to get Kaiju Score?
I'm getting there, man.
Are you? Okay.
Kaiju Score, that's by Aftershock, man. Biggs and Tiny #5. Assassin in the Sun #1 by Scout. Hopefully I can find it. And A Walk with Monsters #1, also by Vault. So I'll be reading a bunch of books and talking about those books on next week. And I'll kind of do a Was It Good solo version. I'll ask myself, was it good? Or something, you know. So there you go. But anyway, go to our next segment. So our next segment is the ones to watch. This is pretty much what we're watching on TV right now.
Yeah.
Netflix, Hulu, you name it, whatever streaming service, or even regular TV. Does anyone even do that anymore?
I don't know.
But I'll go first. So this movie, actually, I just rewatched it. It came out a couple years ago. It's on Netflix. It's called The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Oh, I love that. Oh!
And this is by the Coen brothers.
Yes.
Okay, and this is like 6 separate little mini movies.
Yeah.
All set in the Western theme and stuff. The first one, the story is like a musical.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
It's so amazing.
Some are better than others.
Yeah.
There's like, out of the 6, 2 of them I didn't care for, but the other 4 were really good.
Yeah.
And they've got like Liam Neeson in there, James Franco, nice, cast of characters and stuff. So if you're looking for a nice, and I like things like this. I like little short stories.
Sure.
And this is a nice combination of all of these and stuff.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you saw it.
Absolutely. It's Coen Brothers, so there's
Yes.
some brutal stuff
Oh,
inside
yeah,
of it,
yeah.
But for dark comedy, you just can't beat their stuff. I love the whole Tom Waits, the miner.
Yeah.
But that first one, I can't think of the actor's name. He was in Brother Where Art Thou as
Sure.
well. Absolutely loved that whole thing. It's so good.
And like I said, Liam Neeson is in here, and he's a jerk.
He is a jerk.
He does a pretty horrible thing in this movie, but you know what? It's all good. So that's my pick. It's on Netflix right now. It's actually a Netflix original. Apparently, this movie was released in theaters like for a very short time, and then it went straight to right out of theaters and right to Netflix exclusive. So there you go. That's my pick.
Awesome stuff. So for my pick this week, I started a show that I've kind of been putting off for a long time. I'm always looking for stuff that I can watch with my wife. And so this week we started watching the first season of Schitt's Creek. It's on Netflix. And I got to tell you, I am enjoying it so much more than I thought that I would. It's funny as all get out.
Yeah.
And I love the characters. And it's just amazing stuff.
Yeah, I watched part of the first season when it first came out.
Yeah.
And it's the guy from the American Pie, the dad.
Yeah.
Can't remember the guy's name.
Eugene Levy.
Eugene Levy, yes. And it's fun. Apparently they lose all their money.
Yeah.
Or something like that. How far are you into it?
Just about the end of season 1 now.
Okay, so it's done. The show's done.
Yeah, they're at six. I think they have the total of 6 seasons.
Yeah, but they wrapped it up.
Yeah.
So you can watch every episode on Netflix, I think. So
From what I understand, it just keeps getting better and better and better because
Yeah.
by the last season, I think they won every single award you could ever win.
I think so too. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what brought it back to my attention, is that it won some awards or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, for sure. So we're enjoying it.
You're liking that, huh?
Yeah.
All right, what's it called again?
Schitt's Creek.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, that's not it.
Too funny.
Demonetized.
There you go.
You know what? That's it. That's everything that we had this week. I think we covered the topic that we don't have to cover ever again, so I'm happy about that.
Absolutely.
But really, thank you guys for sharing your thoughts and opinions, and hopefully we did a good job discussing that. We probably didn't. I don't know.
It's a tough subject to tackle, and but I'm glad to be here with you.
Yeah.
And again, we have differing views, but that doesn't mean we don't have to not like each other.
You said almost not like each other.
I know.
Come on, man. The real truth comes out at the end of the video. Really?
I love it.
Like I said, I think that's it. Bob, you want to let them know about TKO real quick?
Yeah, TKO Studios, they're really putting out a lot of great content right now. Like we've talked about, they've released their third wave of books. I do have some copies I'll bring on the next show that we'll use for giveaways, so I will let you know how to get in on that as we go forward. But the one I just got done reading is one called Lonesome Days and Savage Nights. It's a werewolf story.
Nice.
Artwork is incredible inside of it. But anyway, go to TKO Studios. If you see something you like, use the code everything20 at checkout, and you get 20% off your purchase.
There you go. And you can also go to Everything Comics, which is Bob's channel. Subscribe for more great content. He drinks coffee. He's got a cave he sits in or something like that. What's it called? Coffee in my cave?
The Bob Cave.
The Bob Cave? Everyone, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys. Like I said, I'm going to be sending out email to all the people who bought my exclusive cover and just getting all the information squared away for shipping address and signatures and all that good stuff. But it's been a fun show, 103. Well, it hasn't really been that fun, but you know what? It's done. That's
done.
Anyway. All right, everyone. Do me a favor. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You know what to do. We'll see you next time.